I'm Charles Spearin from Du Makes, I think, and you're watching the Frères du Son.
Alors, on reçoit Charles, un des membres fondateurs de Du Makes, I think. Thank you, Charles, for giving us your time to talk to us a bit.
Well, thank you for coming.
So the band has been around for 15 years, and from the beginnings, did you ever think, well, it would lead to be as long as this?
No, I never expected it to be anything more than really just, we booked one show, you know, almost 15 years ago, and it was really just to sort of perform some of the stuff we were doing at home, because I had lived with two of the guys, and then we just kept getting asked to play another show and then play another show. So we did a whole year of playing almost every week without ever having to book our own show. We just get asked. So it was kind of a nice, honest beginning to a project.
Staying independent, you're doing all the stuff by yourself, mixing, recording, and almost everything.
Yeah.
So, why is that so important to you?
Well, I think engineering is like recording. The recording process is almost like an instrument in itself. Like the mixing board is an instrument. You know, you can get all the different tones and all the different sounds. And I'm not the best bass player in the world. I'm not the best guitar player in the world. I play a little bit of trumpet, but I really feel most comfortable with the mixing board, and it's a way of sort of blending everything together. And I think, Ohad once said, having somebody else record your music is like you're doing a painting, but somebody else is choosing the colors. You know, there's so many subtleties that are involved in the recording process that I can't imagine having somebody else, you know, do that for you. So I really enjoy the recording process.
Is it the band philosophy to do everything by itself and to keep control of the creativity, liberty of creativity? Is there something out there about this?
Yeah, absolutely. It keeps it honest in a way. You know, if you're doing it for yourself and you're writing the music because you like it and you're not imagining somebody else listening to it, you know, sometimes you get in this state of mind where you think, well, what is so-and-so going to think of this, or what is this person going to think of this? But I find it best when you just listen to the music and you make it enjoyable to yourself. And I think Constellation Records has been very supportive of our artistic freedom. They've been really appreciative of everything we've done. And we don't get a lot of input in saying, you know, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do that, you should do that. And that just doesn't happen. It's been that way since the beginning of our career, and I can't imagine having to, you know, tailor our sound because of some, you know, outside influence.
Growing up,
Yeah.
did you find yourself a little different than the others? Did you find yourself have difficulty to cope with some things?
I think everybody goes through that, you know? I think that's, you know, the thing about growing up is you sort of learn that you're always on your own. You know, I heard an analogy once that existence is like a duck in the middle of the ocean. You know, everything you see and everything you hear and everything you smell is interpreted by you, and you can only imagine what it's like to be somebody else. So for your whole life, you see the world through your own eyes, and of course, everybody has a feeling of isolation, of difference. You know, I think everybody has to experience that, and yes, certainly I did. I did feel, you know, like I was not. I wouldn't say an outcast, but I always felt like I was a bit of an observer, and I think, but at the same time, that I think is what connects us in a lot of ways. I think everybody has a certain sense of isolation, and if you can recognize that in other people, then you find more of a connection.
What's the thing you would want to change? The first thing that should change in this world in order to be a better place to live in?
Well, I think the main cause of suffering in the world is ignorance, and ignorance leads to aggression, and it leads to a sense of possessiveness and a sense of selfishness. But I think, you know, I actually genuinely think that people are good. People are basically good. But because they're confused and because they suffer, they build up walls around themselves. So I think if there was any way to sort of improve the world, the first step to sort of overcoming ignorance is to examine selfishness and find out what it's like to care for other people more than yourself. You know, sort of exchange yourself for others. You think, what's it like to be in their shoes? You know, what's it like to be them? And it takes effort. It takes imagination to think that. And it's a bit cowardly always to think of yourself. And I think that too many people take the cowardly route. So.
And I read that you studied Buddhism?
Yeah. My father is a Buddhist. So I was raised with Buddhism in my house, and I guess when I was in my 20s, I did a meditation retreat for a month. So I went off to a meditation center and I meditated 10 hours a day for a month, and that's when Buddhism really became more than a philosophy for me. It became more than something to add to my life. It was more of a way of examining my life, a way of looking at my life. So since then, I've been trying to keep up a practice as a Buddhist. For years, I would take a month out of every year to meditate. But now I have 2 small children, and I don't have as much time. So it's more of a philosophy now, but it's certainly been a big part of my life.
Would you say that humankind's worst enemy is its own ego?
Yeah, I think, I mean, yes and no. I think it's important to have a healthy ego at the same time. I think you have to have a good sense of self, and you have to have a good sense of self-esteem, because if you hate yourself, you're just going to cause problems as well. And if you love yourself too much, you're going to have problems as well. There's a middle ground where you're comfortable enough with yourself, but not indulging in yourself. And once you get to that ground, then you have opportunity to think about others more, and and you're not so self-obsessed. So ego is the enemy, but it's not something to be, thrown away. It's something that you have to understand first. It's something that you have to kind of disassemble and examine, and then keep the parts. You still have to sort of understand who you are and what you are, and your sense of self is very important, but you have to, you can't let it run your life, basically.
It's a little bit like the songs of Do Make Say Think, so you have to take away to make something bigger.
I never thought of it, but yeah, you're right. You have to add all the stuff on and scrape it away and examine it, and yeah.
Well, it's been very enlightening. Thank you very much for taking the time again.
Thank you, Pascal, for your questions.